black box? A black box is a flight data recorder that records information about an aircraft's flight and cockpit communications. It's a key tool for investigators to determine the cause of an accident. What does it record? Flight data: time, altitude, airspeed, pressure, heading, acceleration, fuel flow, and more. Cockpit communications: voices and other sounds from the cockpit. How does it work? A specific algorithm records all flight information. The data is accessible to authorities when needed. How is it designed? It's built to be practically indestructible. It's encased in a strong titanium or stainless steel shell. It's insulated to resist extreme heat and pressure. Why is it called a black box? The term originated during World War II as slang for sensitive aircraft components. The recorders are now painted bright orange to help in their recovery after accidents. Who invented it? Dr. David Warren of the Aeronautical Research Laboratories invented the black box flight recorder in 1954. In 1954, Dr. David Warren first came up with the idea of a device that would record not only flight data, but also voices and other sounds in aircraft cockpits immediately prior to a crash. The prototype he designed in the late 1950s met with indifference in Australia, but was greeted with enthusiasm elsewhere in the world. Today, flight recorders are mandatory on all major aircraft throughout the world and have made a huge contribution to air safety. Using black box flight recorders, air crash investigators can download hours of cockpit conversation, as well as large quantities of flight data recorded immediately prior to the crash. This helps them determine the cause of a crash and contributes to preventing similar ones. The pilots' conversations with each other, with air traffic control, and with other planes are all valuable data because 80% of crashes involve a human factor. It was a series of crashes in the early years of commercial jet aircraft travel that initiated the idea of creating an extremely reliable recording device that could withstand massive trauma and deep saltwater immersion. In 1949, the British aviation firm de Havilland launched the Comet, the world's first jet airliner. The fast and comfortable plane caught the imagination of the public. However, from 1952 to 1954, 7 Comets crashed, resulting in the deaths of 110 people. Several of the aircraft disintegrated at high altitude, with no survivors, witnesses, or immediate clues as to what had happened. In 1954, the entire fleet of Comets was permanently grounded, and the most comprehensive air crash investigation ever undertaken began. It eventually found the crashes were caused by metal fatigue, due in part to the aircraft's square windows. Meanwhile, in Australia, the Department of Civil Aviation had held a meeting of experts to discuss the possible cause of the crashes. One of these experts was 28-year-old Dr. David Warren, a chemist specializing in aviation fuels at the federal government's Aeronautical Research Laboratories, ARL, in Melbourne.